So the other day I got some sad news. A guy named Bill, I've been riding bikes with him for about 12 years, and we'd organize these trips. And the crazy thing about him was, like, I would text him and be like, hey, let's go. The next thing I know, we are on multi-day trips. And again, we would just text a couple of times. I'd meet up with him someplace. It's kind of hard to find somebody who will ride with you like that. It's kind of like...
So I've made it to El Reno, Oklahoma on Route 66 at the Motel 6. You know, that was sort of our go-to, the Motel 6s, and we always had our own rooms. That was one thing I liked about riding with him. It wasn't one of those, let's split this or let's split that or share rooms. The first time that I rode with him, I was going to meet up with him in Amarillo at the Big Tex, and we were headed up to the 75th, I think now 74th Sturgis, I believe. I really don't remember. And I rolled into the parking lot, and the place was packed, of course, because there were so many bikes out on the road at that time. And my little Softail was stacked up about 6 foot, because I was carry everything I could possibly think of carrying back then. And I think his initial reaction to me was like, what is this guy? Like, what's wrong with this guy? So we ate there, and then we headed up to Raton, where we met another guy that we were going to ride with. And I think that at that point, Bill was really thinking that he was an older guy that we were going to meet up with, that they might have more of a connection or whatnot. So we got up there, and I think it was a Motel 6 because pretty much everything was booked. And stayed the night there, and we woke up the next day, and we rode into I don't know, maybe not Cortez, town right across from Raton, and ate breakfast there. And I felt Bill was really itching to get gone. Because he said he had to go get a battery for like his key fob, and he was probably 64 at this time, and he rode a V-Rod, very minimalistic, packing, like just a couple of like soft bags on a V-Rod. And so he took off into this town to find a battery for his key fob. And in my mind, I was like, God, this guy's not coming back. He's gonna go on ahead of us. But he didn't. He showed back up at the little restaurant. And then we went up, and we were making our way all the way to Rusk, Wyoming, from northern New Mexico, which is a trek in itself. But we took some side roads, and to skirt the rain, we went over Independence Pass, which was a mistake. We weren't thinking when we did that. I was on a Softail, and I had one glove. I'd lost my other glove, which it was going to be I lost my right glove, my throttle glove. So we're on top of Independence Pass. It's freezing. I've got my left glove on my right hand for throttle, because of course there was no cruise or anything on that bike. And then I'm just trying to keep this hand on the heads to keep it warm. And we make our way down Independence Pass, and it's drizzling and all kinds of stuff. We were trying to get away from the rain, and of course we did this horrible decision. And anyway, but then we got into Breckenridge. I think it was Independence Pass that got us into Breckenridge. And it was, I guess it was a Sunday, because we were going to go through the Eisenhower Tunnel back into Denver. And at that, we didn't know, they have a stoplight, and they only let a certain amount of traffic through the Eisenhower Tunnel at a time. So it's drizzling, and we're in this line of traffic, and on a mountain, on slopes, and of course the old throttle hand is, or I'm sorry, the clutch hand is killing me. And we're like, well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So there's three of us. There's me, Bill, and the other guy. And Bill and I, we jump off onto the shoulder, and we start riding the shoulder all the way up to Independence Pass, and he leave the other guy behind. And we have to get to Lusk. So we make it up to the tunnel, and we go through, and then on the other side we pause for a second, and we kind of pull off for a second. We wait, and we don't see the guy, don't see the guy, don't see the guy. So we hit it and make our way all the way down into that side of Denver, and then shoot up. And we do stop and get like a hamburger or something for maybe like 20 minutes. And then we get back on the road because we're trying to get to Lusk before, it's going to be dark. And so that's a miserable experience, going through that part of Wyoming in pitch black, not knowing what's going to run out in front of you. So, and we were both riding little bikes with just little headlights, nothing bright and shiny. And anyway, so the oddest thing happened. We're flying through through those plains, and we finally get to Lusk, which is a little bitty town out in the middle of nowhere. It's awesome, but it's out in the middle of nowhere. And we pull into one of two motels there, which is packed with motorcycles at the time. And we go in, and there's 2 keys sitting there on the because we'd called ahead. There was 2 keys sitting there, and we grabbed them, and we walked out, and the guy is there, the other guy. And we're like, how in the world did you get here? But anyway, so we go downtown that night, and there's like one bar restaurant, and of course the kitchen's closed. So we go back, we wake up the next morning, and head up towards South Dakota. And about halfway towards Sturgis, or towards the Black Hills, our third guy disappears. He's gone. I look back, and he's just gone. So I swing around, and it's right before you get into the hills. It's pretty flat, and I go to this crossroads where there's like a roadside park or a stop area, rest area. And Bill has turned around too and has gone back. And anyway, and he's gone. So yeah, so Bill and I, after a while, we go back in to the west side of South Dakota, to the Black Hills, up into all those mining towns and all, and we head into Sturgis for our first trip together. And so it really started out quite eventful, and that was trip 1. Well, that's the first part of trip 1. Okay, part 2. So we finished our first trip to Sturgis and rode back, and of course he lived in Oklahoma City. So our last guest stop, we filled up, and I shook his hand and was like, hey, that's awesome. We had already exchanged numbers and whatnot, and we were coming back just north of Oklahoma City. He gave a big wave as he pulled off the interstate, and I gave a wave back and headed back into back to Texas in the sweltering August heat that starts to hit just south of Kansas. And anyway, a few months later, I don't know exactly how much later, I texted him, let's go do something else. And we started doing some random trips. It could have been, again, they all run together. But let's talk about the Los Angeles trip. So I contacted Bill. I said, let's go to Los Angeles, and he was like, oh, sure, whatever. So this time he actually came down to my hometown, and he stayed the night at the Greystone Inn, which is going to play more into this because the Greystone Inn kind of became our the Motel 6. That was his fancy place in Bridgeport to stay, but he came down, and I was just finishing the school year, so we headed out, and the first night went all the way into Colorado. So we were putting some miles on it. Went to Colorado, went over into across the mountains, across Wolf Creek Pass, into I forget it, Aztec, maybe Aztec, Colorado, something like that. And we stayed there, and then we went south and back up into Utah. So my one time in running or riding the Monument Valley, it was with Bill, and it was funny because that Forrest Gump spot, we stopped there, and there was a guy and a girl in an RV, or a man and a woman, I should say, and they were like, "Oh, those bikes look great." And Bill was like, "Hey, how about this? How about you ride that, and I'll jump in the cab for a while." And I really think he was the kind of guy that probably would have like given somebody like his bike to ride it in. Very, very cool demeanor that he had. But went through Monument Valley, stopped, took those photos, and then we went down, and I think it was in Tuba City. Something else about Bill, he gave a lot, like those people that just would ask for money and all. He was always like giving, he'd give them money, and that happens out there, especially on the reservations and whatnot. So that was something that really impressed me. So went down from there into Flagstaff, and then from Flagstaff, I want to say this was one of these epic days. So basically we leave Colorado, go through Monument Valley, through Flagstaff, and we go all the way to like Keeneman. And when we get to Keeneman, we stop at like a Jack in the Box. I think it was a Jack in the Box on the exiting right off the interstate on the right there, and we get just a soft drink. And it's getting dark, and we're like, well, what are we gonna do? We're going to California. We're here. There's still, some time left in the day, and we were like, well, let's go to Las Vegas. So to stay straight or to go west, we would have gone, over to like Needles and whatnot. But so we go north towards the Hoover Dam and to Las Vegas. And this is, I remember it was a holiday. It was Memorial Day, because when we got to the Motel 6 on Las Vegas Boulevard, they were sold out. But we started talking, and there were 2 rooms that had the TVs and all were ripped out of them. There was no electronics in them. They had a bed. So we got those, and he didn't want to leave his bike there. I remember, because we tried to keep our stuff as secure as possible. I don't think he thought about being a problem like getting stolen. He just didn't want people to mess with his motorcycle. But so all the way from Colorado, Monument Valley, down all the way over, back up into Las Vegas, and we're only in Vegas for like maybe 7 hours, not very long at all. We leave the hotel, we walk around. I remember we walked over to Ellis Island and then back in, and woke up really early the next morning. And that was the one time I rode a motorcycle on the Strip. So we rode the Strip, and then we got back on westbound on the interstate and hightailed it to wherever that town is on the high desert. Victorville, and we stopped in Victorville, and we ate at like a Denny's, and we were sitting there, and we were like, well, what are we doing? What are we gonna do? And he got his phone out, and he goes, he said, we can go stay at the that big ship, the Queen Elizabeth ship. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. So he calls. And they're like, yeah, well, whatever, yeah, you can get it done. So we reserve 2 rooms in Victorville, and I'd never even been in California before. And that's in Long Beach. So I'm like, yeah, let's go. So we jump on the motorcycle, and we drop out of the high desert into the city, and my shoulders just go like this. And they say like that all the way to Long Beach, and we get to the ship, and And it's like, oh my gosh, this is this is pretty awesome. And we hang out there, and then he goes, he said, tomorrow we'll go see a friend of mine. And anyway, and then we'll get there in a second. Then one other thing that's really cool about Bill that I want to say is that when you got to some place, you didn't necessarily have to hang out. If we were going to be somewhere for 2 days and say there was like a concert or a show going on at Sturgis and he had no interest in it, he stayed at like the camp, and I would go to places. So we were traveling companions, and not necessarily people that had to plan every little thing together, which was nice because it just was. So like when we got to Long Beach, exploring that ship, which was pretty awesome. We were on our own, and then I'd text him whatever, like, hey, what's happening. But the next day he was like, well, I have a friend in Hermosa Beach. So he and I, we rode our motorcycles. No, first of all, I need to step back. We went to the tar pits, La Brea tar pits, and before we went down there, and we parked at La Brea, and we went through that little museum, and then we walked all the way up to like Hollywood Boulevard. And now I'm in jeans, like a Western shirt with snaps, my motorcycle boots, which were like cowboy boots at the time, not comfortable at all, and that was crazy. But we actually had to get an Uber. We got a lift back to La Brea tar pits, and we got on the bikes there, and then we went to Hermosa Beach, where his friend lived from like when he lived there. Bill lived in California before he moved to Oklahoma, and his friend's place was on the beach. Like, here's the beach, here's the sidewalk, here's the house. And so we pull into this back little thing, and I'm just, oh my gosh, wow, this is insane. So we get there, and Bill was already wearing shorts. He wore shorts and tennis shoes. He always wore tennis shoes on his motorcycle, like ready to walk. Not a big boot guy or anything like that, but and he's wearing the shorts because he knew he was going to the beach, but or he had the shorts with him or something. Anyway, I had no shorts. So his friend had to lend me these shorts, and so I'm wearing like my cowboy shirt and these shorts, and just take my boots off and I go barefoot, because he's like, that's what you do, you just go barefoot. So we're walking on the coast there, and I'm taking pictures of seaweed because I'm fascinated by this seaweed with like these little balloon things on it, and he's like, oh, weird, But we hang out there, and his friend and his wife they're there, and they're like, well, yeah, I want to stay here, and we're like, well, now we got to go back to that ship. But anyway, very, very unique, very awesome experience. So I guess it was the next day or the day after, we go up to we're in Malibu. And we're just driving down the beach, just casual, like with no place to go. But I had to get back. Actually, I had to get back to Tucumcari because there was an event going on at Tucumcari, New Mexico, I wanted to go to. And anyway, we're at a Thai place that's right on the beach in Malibu. And he's like, well, we can go up north, we can keep going up. And I'm like, no, and he's like, oh, okay. So, and this is how crazy this is. So we get back on the motorcycles, and we go north of Los Angeles. I really don't understand where we were, but we were on the other side of the hill, kind of out in the desert. And, it was out in the middle of nowhere. And we cruise along, and I guess we could maybe go into Barstow or something like that, and it's dark, it's pitch black. And so we go from like Barstow back to Needles, and it's pitch black. And we're flying down the highway, and there's a semi truck on the side of the road, engulfed in flames. The entire thing is burning. This entire truck is on fire, and like a big, it was insane. And made it back or made it to Needles, and I think it was another Motel 6, Needles. I think that Needles is a nasty place, but in my opinion. And I think that Motel 6 might be gone. That shows you how Needles is. But we stopped there, and it was kind of tame from there on out. We made it back into New Mexico, back to Tucumcari, where we went to Rockabilly on the Route, and that was, he said he had no idea that there was a scene of people where the women dressed up as Minnie Mouse, and we stayed there at night, and the next day he motored into Texas and on into Oklahoma, and I made my way home. So yeah, from there we had quite a few little adventures. I think we went back to Sturgis once or twice. Did a lot of trips around Arkansas. I'd go up and meet him in Oklahoma City. And we would go across and just do some, 2-day things, 2-night things. And then we were teasing this for a while to go to Key West. Or no, actually, it was Daytona. It was Daytona Bike Week. And it was the year of the pandemic. So my spring break fell on Bike Week. So we planned it, and he came down to Bridgeport that Friday. And I was actually working 2 jobs. I was teaching, plus I was working at the pizza place, trying to get my head clear from school, because it'd be better for me to come home, and instead of just sitting at the house thinking about school, it would be to go down there and work at the pizza place. So he came down, and I remember a cold front came in that night. So I circled around early that morning, got him at the Greystone, and we took off. And our plan was to make it like all the way into Alabama, so like Mobile from North Texas, which is a big day. And we got pretty close. We put a lot of miles on that day, and it was fine. And then we made it down to Daytona, stayed at Daytona, and then we were like, well, he had a friend who was a captain of a boat. There was always craziness, but it was legit, because I would meet these people, and he was in Homestead. So we left Daytona and went to Homestead, and we met this guy, and we went to eat. It was like a Red Lobster type place, but it was already weird because the guy was being very like standoffish and everything. Not that we were close, but because of everything that was fixing to happen, there's that hints of what was to come. But so we visited with him. We left, stayed the night there, and then we woke up very early the next day. And this is the one that takes the cake. So we leave Homestead, and we go. It's dark, and we head towards Key West. So once we're getting into the Keys, the sun's coming up, and we go through all of the Keys, and we're not in necessarily that big of a hurry, but we get to Key West, and we have tents with us because we were camping in Daytona, and we get down there, and there's like not even a place to put a tent. And then of course any place to stay in Key West was like insane. like $600 a night or something like that we would not have done. We got down there and we stop, and I go and to this place to get the conch. So I have some conch, fried conch, in Key West, and we're sitting there like, oh, what are we gonna do? So we are like, well, let's head back north. So that's when, oh, and also there's a photo of like the dot on the map when you're out in the middle of nothing. I remember he showed that to me before or since. But anyway, we headed back to Homestead. When we got there, we were like, well, what are we gonna do now? So we turned left into the Everglades, and we were gonna go to Naples. Now, this is all in a single day, and people are feeling good about it. Oh, we actually did stop and have some key lime pie. I forget which key it was in, but so we start heading back west across the Everglades, and halfway between is like a roadside stop that has that's like a nature center on the north side of the road, and there's two other people on motorcycles that are headed back east, and west the sky is just black. It's just black, and Bill says there's a like a fishing village type thing on down a little bit that we could go and stop at. So we're like, okay. Now, albeit no rain gear, I don't roll with any of that kind of stuff on a Softail, and we take off, and then it hits, and it just wicks into every bit of our clothing, but it's fine. So we're riding in this pouring rain through the Everglades, and we get to this little town. Of course, one motel sold out. What are you gonna do? Let's go on into Naples, go all the way across Florida. So we take off, and I lead, and this is where it gets crazy. So we're coming in, and I believe it was Naples, and going back across the Florida is a toll road. So as soon as we get to this little cluster of motels and hotels, we're ready to stop. I pass the entrance and get onto the tollway entrance heading back east. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And Bill's following me because that's what, Anyway, and this was before phone. I didn't have my phone out and my GPS and all that kind of stuff. And I get to the toll booth window, and I tell the guy, I remember I was sitting there, it's drizzling, and I'm like, listen, I made a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here. I need to be back. He's like, oh yeah, that happens to people. I'm like, no, listen, I've made it. And I said, like, where's the next exit? And he's like, it's like 30 miles. And he goes, there is a little, can go across the median, just right up there. I don't have any change, so Bill is behind me. He actually has to pay my toll, and Bill's listening to some of this. So it's night time, it's drizzly, and I gun it out of that toll booth, and I'm looking to my left, and as soon as I see the little drop off, I take it, and it's a drop off into a median of just rocks and all kinds of horrible mess. And then of course, to get back up on the interstate, there's probably about a little, 6-inch, 8-inch thing that I have to get the bike up on. And so I get my little Softail through that mess, hit the road and take the exit, circle around, and get the first motel there. I don't know what that motel was. I could probably look it on a map, Google Maps or something like that. And I wait, and there's no bill. So I text him. I call him, nothing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if he tried to go through that ditch, because he was on a touring bike, he could have put it in the dirt. So like any good friend, I checked in and went to the pool bar. It was really a cool place. That was, I guess, because of alligators. Their entire pool and little restaurant and everything was encased in screen. And I was sitting there and I was waiting and I was waiting, and then finally he pulls back up, or he called. I forget if he called. I think he calls me or texts me, and I'm like, I met so and so, and he'd gone on and taken the exit and come back around, and we sat there at that little pool that night, and there was a lot of talk about the pandemic was being talked about, and then we kept driving in to towards Texas, and when we got to Monroe, Louisiana, we stayed in Monroe, Louisiana. That wasn't a Motel 6, I remember it wasn't. And we went downtown in Monroe, Louisiana, and there was to this restaurant. We actually got an Uber or a Lyft or something to this little downtown place. It was really cool, and it was totally empty. Like the whole place was empty. And we were talking, we were like, what's going on? And everybody's like, wow, everybody's freaked out. Everybody's scared to leave their house and all. And I was like, what? Because we'd been out, I guess, for about nine days, and a lot had happened. A lot had changed in those 9 days. We weren't watching the television or anything like that. Yeah, so we did that, came back on into town, and then there was the pandemic. So yeah, the Daytona trip was a very eventful trip. It was a lot of fun and a lot of memories. From there was a couple of other small trips, but the last one that we ever did was to the rally in Galveston, the Lone Star Rally or whatever they call it. And we spent a lot of time in Harley Davidson shops. One thing that I was really bad about doing was waiting until my tires needed replaced on the road. So I'd find shops and we'd sit in there. But that last time, he's the one that had to hit the shop. Had a clutch problem. He didn't have the hydraulic clutch. He had a whatever. But had a little problem with clutch, and we had to stop on the way in someplace in South Texas at some Harley Davidson in South Texas and get his clutch worked on. And then we went down to Galveston, and it's not a lot of riding, but we went downtown, did all of that stuff, and we stayed at a campsite that is off the island. It's at a fairgrounds, and it was different. The whole our scene, it felt different. He wasn't as engaged as normal. In hindsight, I'm like, maybe something was up. I didn't inquire, but yeah, we woke up and it's an October rally, so sometimes it's cold coming back up, and I think it was a little cooler, and we stopped right out just south of Fort Worth, and my primary was leaking, which come to find out it was a much bigger thing than what it was. But I remember I stopped and I had this really fresh oil dripping out from the primary, and he looked at it and said, well, that's odd or whatever. And so that was on my mind. And again, we never really ended up in the same place, so we always passed each other on the way home and gave a wave. And it was somewhere maybe in Waxahachie or someplace south of the Metroplex that he kept going straight towards Oklahoma, and I turned off to go south of the Metroplex and back towards my house. And I'm sure we did passing wave, but that was the last time I rode with Bill, and very unique guy that for those of you who do, like I've said before, like I said, if you've been riding with people, you know those who you get along well with and you just kind of coexist with. And he was one. We had a lot of talks in the evening about, you know, family and faith and theory and philosophy. I don't know if he was always listening, but he was somebody that I could do these, you know, these random rants with, and he would talk, you know, talk to me. So Bill Greer passed away May 18th, and so